now try your microphone. There we go.
And we are live.
We're live. Okay.
Yes.
We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the Nevada Irrigation District Board of Directors, July 13th, 2022. If you all stand with me for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Division 1? Here. Division 2?
Here.
Division 3? Here. Division 4? Here. Division 5?
Here. Thank you. Okay. First item this morning is a special order recognition of employees. I think General Manager Jennifer Hampton is going to handle that for us this morning.
All right, this is one of always one of my favorite presentations that we have the opportunity to give. And so, you know, the district wouldn't be the district without the staff and the employees. And since I've been here, I have just been absolutely amazed with the dedication from all levels of employees. And one of the really neat things about NID is there's a lot of family histories that have gone through here, as shown by the Beer Wagon family. That's right. Generations of employees have, from the same families have come through. We have a lot of family members currently working for us, so it's really neat that that translates into their work and then also into the community. So we're first going to start with the 10-year service award. And a decade being at the same place or employer is actually something to be proud of these days. It's not very often that you do find people staying for a decade or more at any individual employer. So a huge thank you to these gentlemen. We have Brian Beam, he's vegetation control worker, started in 2012. We have James, I'm going to butcher his last name. Balik. Mr. Balik is an electric systems technician. And then lastly, we have Julian Gonzalez, who is a water distribution operator. So a big thanks to all of those gentlemen. Moving on to additional 10-year service awards, we have Caden Codwell. He is a senior park ranger. And, you know, oftentimes I think people think the park rangers have the fun job. And I can assure you that it's part fun. It is very rewarding from the standpoint that they get to be out in some of the most beautiful areas of the county as their work environment. But it's also extremely challenging. Our park and recreation workers, they often have to deal with some pretty hairy situations with our recreation users. And we just really appreciate their dedication, and I can attest to that you would not want to have seen some of the things that we have to clean up in bathrooms out of the lake facilities, so we certainly appreciate their dedication and commitment to our recreation program. We have Kevin Munt, he's a senior utility worker, and then lastly we have Brian Berg in Hydro Systems, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Brian is a recent transfer into Hydro.
Been there 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. And that's one of the great things about NID is we certainly, it is one of the concepts that I'm a big believer in, and that is internal promotions. It's always extremely important to invest in your current staff and value them, because you can have some of the best employees, especially, you know, if you have a very bright, dedicated, competent employee and they start very young, it is every penny you can invest in their careers comes back to the district tenfold. So a huge thank you to our 10-year service award employees. Next, we have 15 years. So this is back in 2007. So even their 15 years of dedication is even more impressive. And it really isn't often you find folks that are with the same employer for 15 years. We have John Grande, he's senior water distribution operator. Adrian Schneider, which many of you know, he is one of our engineering staff members down in the engineering department. He has worked on many of our capital projects. And then a huge thank you to the famous person in the room here, Kian. Kian's been with us for 15 years, and, you know, I'd just like to take a moment to recognize Kian and his outstanding work. Kian is definitely one of the best director-level managers that I've ever worked with. He is his analness is, well appreciated. His attention to detail.
Would that be better?
Oh, yeah, that may have came out wrong. Good thing HR's not in the room.
Sure, rewind the tape.
Okay, can we cut that part of the tape out? McKeon's awesome. Hydropower comes with great risk and great reward, and it is definitely an area where we need somebody with attention to detail, and his high level of commitment and dedication to excellence can be seen throughout the hydroelectric department. So a huge thank you to Keon.
Thank you.
And then on to, we're not on the grand finale yet. We have 20 years, so that is 2 decades. So that's 2002, I know. What's funny is when you start getting up into 20 years, a little bit over 20 years, then, you know, all of us start going, the new employees could be our children at this point.
Yeah.
So, right? So it definitely ages all of us. But Kenton is just an absolute gem to work with. He is just a very kind person. He's one of those people that I've heard this often throughout the district, that everybody who comes into contact with him, he's just such a nice person and such a kind person that everybody always leaves feeling a little bit better. And then also, Gary, I was like, I was thinking Gary, and I'm like looking at his face going, that's not correct. Gary is also the same type of person. He is out in the plaster yard, and he is just a kind, sweet gentleman, always has a big, quick smile on his face, and so we greatly appreciate his service to the district as well. So that's 20 years, folks.
Wow.
Then grand finale, Joe Pitts, so 25 years. So it's absolutely amazing that he has been here for 25 years. And one of the nicest things about employees who've been here for a long time is they hold a lot of history in their brains. That is when they share it. There's oftentimes we have to go to some of the older time employees to ask what happened, the documentation's not good, or why was this occurring, or where is this at, or how do we handle this? So we greatly appreciate all of our dedicated employees, and congratulations to Mr. Pitts for 25 years.
So thank you to all of them. On behalf of the board and myself, I want to thank all of them also for the job. Some of the things Jennifer said, I know about a couple of these guys, and it's really, a couple of them, they love their jobs here, right? So we thank you for that. Thank you for that, and appreciate your job you do. All right. At this time, we'll take public comment on any items not on today's agenda. If you'd like to speak to an item that's pertinent to NID business, star 9 on your phone or step up to the podium at this time.
I'm always so quiet.
Always so quiet, pressure on.
Well, I want to thank Julian Gonzalez and his 10 years of service. I would not have NID water on my property if it wasn't for Julian. He maintains our ditch and was instrumental over the last 2 years. So getting the new box installed and getting the flow right. So Julian, I'm sure you're working today, but thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on items not on today's agenda? Star 9 on your phone. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. In a motion to,
Well, Mr. President, I would like to pull, please, item 4G, District Finance Waterline Extension Program.
And I would like to pull for E, Director. Duty statement. E.
E, update the manager job titles.
Yes, Director.
Okay,
Yes.
anybody else? All right,
I'm going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4F, 4H, 4I, 4J, 4K.
okay. Do we have a second? Moved and seconded. Any public comment on these items that were on the consent agenda? Start on your phone. Step up. Okay, Madam Secretary, you call the roll, please.
Division 4? Division 1?
Yes.
Division 5?
Yes.
Division 3? Aye. Division 2?
Aye. Okay, we'll go in order, 4E for Director Peters.
Oh, he is, okay, yes, okay. I'd like to just bring to everyone's attention, I've brought it many times before, and, just these two, between the Director of Engineering and the Director of Power Systems. I see that in the Director of Engineering position, on the essential functions, there's the Director of Engineering serves as the district chief engineer. It's kind of an antiquated word, and it doesn't really line up with what, the law says. The law says engineers of responsible charge, or, designated engineer of the district, but it says the chief engineer. And so back when this chief engineer, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was only one engineer that oversaw the water and distribution systems and the hydro system. There was one engineer over the entire district. Well, now we have, duty statements for the Director of Engineering, but it specifically notes that he only directs, plans, oversees, and designs construction and implementation of complex water treatment and distribution systems. There's no mention of hydroelectric facilities. And so bear with me just a second. The California Code of Regulations says that at least one licensed engineer shall be designated the person in responsible charge of professional engineering work for each branch of professional engineering practiced in any department. And then that engineer has certain responsibilities. And so I looked at, and those responsibilities include in Section 404 of the Professional Engineering Code. It includes, the selection of engineering alternatives to be investigated, the selection and development of design standards and methods, and the decisions related to the preparation of plans, specifications, calculations, reports, and other documented work, the selection and development of techniques and methods of testing used in evaluating materials or projects, and the review, evaluation of manufacturing, fabrication, construction methods, and also the development and control of operating and maintenance procedures. And so these, in 404 of the California Water Code, these are the requirements of the designated engineer. Whereas our designated engineer has items, the Director of Engineering has items 6 through 10, which state, direct plan, oversee design, secure and manage the services contracts, direct development, modification, and implementation of engineering standards, and oversee, participate long-range planning studies, review and approve engineering drawings and reports. It doesn't note that they, develop and control of operating and maintenance procedures. And it doesn't, and so there's a few of the responsibilities that are required in Section 404 that are not in the engineering duty statement. And then when you go to the power system statement, Director of Power Systems, none of it's in there. And so I just want to raise it to you guys' attention that it's odd. And so that's my statement. I think that I think that it should, if we have two engineers, we need to figure out how one does. We need to set up a structure to understand, because right now, according to the power systems duty statement, there's too many papers here. I don't know where to put it. All of that's missing. I can find the power duty statement. So so that's my concern. I just wanted to raise it to the rest of this board because my vote doesn't count. So I'd like to let everybody know that I think that these two duty statements need some more work.
So to go forward, you'd like to include the water code into our...
Yeah, I think it needs to be revisited and made sure that our bases are covered, that if we have a designated engineer in responsible charge. I'm not sure, do we have district chief engineer defined anywhere? What is the district, Dustin, maybe you know, what is a district chief engineer? What's the definition of a district chief engineer?
So the item before you is actually quite narrow.
we're only changing the title.
Right.
I understand the comment you're making, but to be honest with you, I need to look at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, I think we should pull these and wait and look at it comprehensively and then bring it back.
I would not
That's my
recommend we pull the items at this time. It's a very, as, Mr. Cooper said, it's just a very narrow item. We're just changing the titles. We actually have a lot of job specifications that need a thorough review and a look at. A lot of them, need some tweaking or refinement to better define their actual job duties. So I just recommend we put that on our to-do list for a later date and move forward with the title change.
Well, then maybe you can tell me, what's the rush? What's the rush? They've been engineering managers for, 100 years. So why do we have to do it today without looking at it comprehensively? To me, we keep bringing things back piecemeal, we'll fix this and then have to bring it back another time. I mean, why don't look at documents comprehensively? I was always trained to, if you're gonna touch it once. Make sure that the other things are right about it. Don't just say, I'm gonna go and do this and then not look at anything else around it. And to me, it's a waste of energy.
Well, it is when we broaden the discussion. I observed when I looked at the duty statements last time, when we were discussing this topic, I did observe that I would have some input on, the way things were described. However, that wasn't what was brought to us, so I capped my comments and have saved what I've written up for a time when you want to bring that forth. I personally think that it's a fine approach to change the job titles. I agree that the market is more aligned with what you're bringing forth, and that we've talked in multiple sessions about the fact that the job duties do need to be updated. And so but that's a comprehensive undertaking, having done that for a large institution. So I can understand the iterative approach that you're taking. So I just offer that.
Yeah, unfortunately, this fiscal year, we do not have the bandwidth to undertake that monumental of an effort to review all of our job specifications, but it certainly is on our list of things to look at in the future. I highly recommend that we move forward with this item now and not table it, for the primary reason that we are in the process of wanting to recruit for a finance director, and we think that this modification will assist with our recruitment efforts.
So,
Director Johnson.
yeah, I appreciate Director Peters' comments because this is an endeavor we need to do in Karen's. But I'm comfortable making the small change, making a motion that we adopt 4E, update management, or manager job titles, resolution number 2022-42, and then give a direction when appropriate, then to do a deeper dive out into the descriptions. So I'd like to, that's a motion.
Motion, do we have a second?
Well, before we, can I make a comment?
No, you can comment after a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
I second.
Okay. Director Heck, sorry to pull part of this.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you do. That's your job. So, I also appreciate what, Laura's comments, Director Peters' comments, and, I would just ask maybe that, I think that having our job descriptions aligned with what the water code requires is an important thing. It's important. Is this the time to do it? I'm hearing it's not, but I would ask then that we make certain that those comments are incorporated when we go forward with revising all of the job descriptions, because we need to make sure it's consistent with the water code.
Okay.
I'm not sure that there is a connection.
Yeah, I would recommend we look into it. I
Yeah,
think we're
yeah.
conflating a couple of issues. So,
Yeah,
and it's
okay.
just off topic right now, so I would recommend we, that
I'm comfortable with that.
staff
I
take a look at a comprehensive job description of state. I'm not comfortable at this point indicating any specific change related to any regulation without reviewing it myself.
I understood.
Okay.
Yeah, understood.
Oh, and I'm not asking you to change it today. That was, I just wanted to make you aware of it.
Thank you, Laura.
And excellent.
Any further board discussion? Would any member of the public like to comment on this item? Update the manager job titles. start on your phone or come to the podium. Okay, Madam Secretary, you call the roll, please.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Director Hall.
Director Hall.
All right, Division 4,
No.
Division 1,
Yes.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3, Division 2.
Aye, thank you. Director Heck, item 14.
Yes, thank you very much. Excuse me, we've discussed this item over and over, as you all know, and you all know where I'm at with it. I just was not wanting to be put in a position of approving the consent agenda with this item on it, because I really believe that we as NID can, and we have successfully done some innovation with regard to financing. The extending water lines can't really be done singularly by one person, and then another person, and then another person. It really has to be done as a group. So the only way that happens is there's financing, and I'm sad that we are eliminating that component of this, and that's it.
Yeah, I think it might be a good time to share some potential good news. We have been working with the state, with some of their grant program managers, and there is some opportunity to have a packaged grant program that would be completed on a reimbursement basis with the state, to assist folks with capacity fees, also even some of the actual project costs. And so stay tuned, it might be a really good opportunity for these types of projects. So we're diligently working through that process right now.
Right, and I really hope we're successful, because
Yeah, me
there's a
too.
whole lot of folks that
Use this.
can use this.
Yeah,
And we need to find, I just want to make sure we put some effort in, and I trust that you are,
Yeah, for
to
sure.
finding money to assist this, because
Yeah.
folks can't do this on their own.
The city of Orland received $16.7 million
Yeah, that's what you
for
said.
projects like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they are participating in that PACT grant program.
Yep.
And so there's, can be several different types of components to it. It could be just simply paying of capacity fees, it could be paying portions of the extension projects, it could be paying for water tanks or bottled water. So it is a really good program, and it sounds like that we have a fairly decent chance of being able to participate in developing an Orland-type
Great.
program.
Very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of need out there, so I just don't want
A
to
lot
forget
of-
about it.
A lot of need.
For sure.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to make that entertaining motion?
What am I motioning? I mean, the item before us is
To accept,
to accept this, and no, I'm not gonna make that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to, accept the modifications of the district finance waterline extension program.
I have a second.
I second.
Any further discussion by the board? Would any member of the public like to speak to this? I'm sorry, I forgot your name, sir.
Glenn Freitas,
Glenn Freitas.
representing the Maranatha project at the FWLE. Thank you, Director Heck, for commenting on that and not losing sight of the importance of the finance piece, whatever that might look like, right? My question or issue is a little more technical. So in reading the amendments to Section 1020, the staff has put forth the future of that program. The changes that eliminate the current financial structure, and then the changes to accommodate your vision for the future. What's lost in the language is any reference to the projects in the queue that we are treating separately. So my worry is, once those rules become final, we disappear. And all we have is a handshake with the board that those projects will move forward on a modified financial structure that we talked about in the last meeting. That's only captured in your minutes. It's not captured in your regulations. And so down the road, if you all disappear January, a new board comes in and says, the only rules we have to follow is what's on the books. And the current folks that are in the queue are lost in that structure. So what assurance do we have moving forward that if in fact Maranatha project comes to fruition and we have enough participants, thank you Shannon for presenting to our neighborhood, as a matter of fact, what assurances do we have that the budget will continue to carry that project forward? That's my question. Sort of legal issue in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So from a legal perspective, there isn't a whole lot of more assurance that's provided between whether it was written in the policy or versus a verbal commitment that's been documented on the record, because in theory, any new board can change the policy whenever they want. Additionally, there's always going to be a second step for the financing component and actually moving your project forward, and that is through the annual budget process, which wouldn't be done through the policy either. So from the perspective of we didn't want to bring another policy change back in 6 months to remove that portion of the project, I am very comfortable with the commitment that the board has made to you with moving your project forward in the manner in which we were directed to do so. And that would be memorialized in project-specific agreements when the project comes forward. I don't think that it's necessary at this time to include those projects in policy based off of the record and the fact that policy and through the annual budget process, there is always the opportunity to change minds. The good news is that, you know, there are only, I guess there are 3 members of the board up for re-election, but we're going through the capital portion of developing the budget right now. So we should have some certainty, even with the new board being seated, as to whether or not there's still commitment for those projects.
So the budget decisions will be made in advance of that,
The budget,
which will carry some language to sort of,
the final budget approval will be at the first meeting in December, which is after the new board is seated. But prior to that first meeting in December, we will have gone through budget workshops, and at that point, the projects are pretty much solidified.
Didn't we do a time certain for commitment? What was that time frame?
6 months, I think.
6 months, that was from May. And so before the budget's adopted, we should have commitment, and it should be completed, is my understanding.
yeah, and our timeline is the 22nd of July. So for our project, that's our commitment date. So we will know very soon.
Yeah, I think that you should be in, as long as the commitment date is met, that we should be in good standing.
Right. You understand where I'm.
I certainly understand it. I just think that modifying the policy actually doesn't get you more assurance than you currently have, because the decisions could still be modified. But I'm confident in the direction received from the board and the support from the board. You know, staff is moving forward based off of that direction.
Thank you, Ben.
And we do have, we've already met with 3 of the groups, 3 of the 4, so the timelines have basically started for 3 of those 4 groups.
Oh, good.
So we'll know what projects are moving forward when we come forward with the budget.
Thank you for that.
Is it scheduled yet, the 4th meeting?
It's not scheduled.
Not scheduled yet.
But they understand the 6-month timeframe, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, that's why we're pushing to get that start so that we can get commitment from those groups, starting that 30-day window on the time we have to meet, so.
All right. Folks, anybody else like to comment on this item? District Finance Waterline Extension Program, proposed modifications. Turn on your phone or step to the podium. All right, Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Division 4,
Aye.
Division 1,
No.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 3, aye, Division 2.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Next item, the general order item. General order number 5A, board policy 3200, claims against the district. Mr. Jones, good morning.
Public and staff. This is a simple, just discussion. This is a simple discussion, looking for direction on policy 3200 as an update. If you recall, when we revised many of the board policies in May, we removed certain elements of all of the various committees that would be, so administrative practices and M&R, et cetera. This particular policy was updated then, and it reflected that. So back in March, sorry, not May, March, and we've removed elements of the approval of the Maintenance and Resources Committee. So those were already stripped out in advance. This is the updated policy as of March. Now, this is bringing forth just a bit more of a streamlining process for administrative purposes. When we receive a claim from an individual within the district boundaries or outside of the district boundaries, those claims are reviewed by the Assistant General Manager. And per policy, if it's over a dollar amount, they go directly to the insurance reviews, we have a conversation. We have, if it's a claim against property, there's a minimum threshold in which the district has, I think it's $5,000 is our policy limit, and then we go from there. But the insurance and the Assistant General Manager discuss the claim, we review it. In advance of that, I will have done some research, talked to certain staff, if there were witnesses to certain events, or gone to the facility, taken pictures, reviewed it. So we have this internal practice. Right now, though, there is no mechanism that the staff, at staff level, can actually necessarily reject a claim. And so what we're asking for is, in order to streamline some of these claims and sort of waiting for, to come back to the board after some analysis and discussion, to come back to the board and discuss a rejection of a claim, that the board gives myself and the general manager the authorization to reject claims up to a $10,000 limit. Some of these claims, if they're rejected, we may go to small claims court for that, but it is a relatively small percentage of those claims, and based on the analyses and the research that is done into these claims, we can go to small claims court if the claimant is not in agreement with our decision. We would do that anyway if it came to the board. We've gone to small claims court before. But this just gives, this update to the claims policy just gives us a bit more flexibility to settle claims or move claims along, as opposed to having them sit there longer than they need to be, get all the information together, put it together in a packet, come to the board, get a discussion. And that's really what this is. So I don't propose this is just a discussion purposes, and we bring it back at a next board meeting should the board be accepting of this direction.
Thank you, Greg. Director Johansson.
I may be reading it wrong, but if it's under 10,000, can go to the Assistant General Manager. If it's in excess of 10,000, it can come to the board. What happens if it's 10,000?
Well,
It's
that's a
up
good point.
to and more than.
Yeah, it can be worded up to 10,000 and 10,001 and more.
But point
goes to the board.
But point 4, change that terminology.
We can adjust that.
Yeah.
Director.
Thank you. This is just a procedural thing. I'm wondering if we couldn't add, for those that are in the first category, up to 10,000, that should it be denied, that the claimant has another, they can appeal to the board. I just feel like that's a proper process, so I just offer that to my colleagues, and I bet that's not going to be much.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work? Tell me why that wouldn't work.
It's a legal action under the Tort Claims Act, once you deny a claim.
Okay.
And it starts a statute of limitations clock. So you would be running afoul of that process by adding in another procedural step. Now, that being said, if any aggrieved party, under your hypothetical, wanted to come talk to the board, they could, before having their claim rejected or after having, they always have access to the board.
Okay.
But I wouldn't, we could not build in a hard and fast
An appeal
procedural
process,
step. Yeah.
okay.
I got where you're going. Lots of things you take to the Board of Supervisors, right?
Well, yeah, I just think it was a procedural thing that would have been perhaps appropriate, but I hear the tort claim. I understand that, so, okay.
Oh, Director Peters, I'm sorry. Reading it.
You mentioned at the beginning something about $5,000, you said so what is
The
that?
deductible, insurance deductible. That's our insurance liability deductible.
So you said that you go out, you get a claim, and you go out and look at it, and if it's under $5,000, it just goes to the deductible and we pay it, and so really it's between $5,000 and $10,000?
No.
You would
let
be
me-
paying out
let
of
me-
pocket.
Let me restate what I had stated earlier. When we receive a claim, if it is greater than a deductible, typically I would go to the insurance company and discuss with them. If it's under the deductible, we would pay it, we wouldn't bring that to the insurance at all because it's under our deductible. We'd pay it if we decided that the district was at fault for that particular claim. If it was over the deductible, then I would bring in our insurance, because anything beyond the $5,000, we would be talking to the insurance, if appropriate. So that's all that I meant in terms of the deductible. There's no magic number where, there could be a claim that the insurance may say, well, that's not within our policy, district, it's $8,500, and you're responsible for all of it, we're not going to pay for it at all, so.
Do you have just an estimate of the number of claims that you receive that are under 10,000?
A majority of claims are under the $10,000.
We don't get very many
I thought I read
claims.
a number somewhere.
Well, we roughly have about 35 to 40 a year.
Total claims.
In total, and it varies depending on the season. You know, many claims revolve around a canal is overtopped, and that is after a winter storm or a spring storm, right? Something has clogged up a fencing within a canal and it's overtopped and it's taken out someone's driveway. I mean, there are, right, some of these are fixable with some rock and dirt, right? Some of them are actual property damage where we have to assess. Some of them could be, you know, it varies in many respects. But if it's a physical damage to an individual or if there's an injury, that goes directly to the insurance right away. But if it's property damage, we assess it, and then we talk to the insurance after that if it meets a particular threshold that's necessarily over $5,000 normally.
We don't get anywhere near 35 claims that I feel like we do.
No, so I ought to be so clear
We
that
handle
they are
them.
behind
Yeah, they
below
handle them.
10,000.
We handle them.
Well,
in
right
terms-
now, below 10,000, they have to come to the board, right? That's, you're trying to change it, so they don't have to come to the board if they're below
Right.
10,000.
Right.
So if they, theoretically, if they're below 10,000, you're asking for approval to reject them without coming to the board, but you don't see them anyway. We don't see the claim, we don't get 35 claims, or,
No, you
so
don't.
you think most of them are under 500? Is that?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that many of the claims that we receive, we've either settled with the claimant.
So there are things
Some way, shape, or
that are
form.
obvious
Yeah.
that we have a problem.
We have already taken care of
And
it.
so we take care of it without any dispute.
We can get a claim that comes in, and it could be something that we'll just go and fix.
Go fix
Yeah,
it, we'll
yeah.
never hear about it.
Mhm.
And typically, and a lot of those we do. I mean, a lot of these claims are very small.
You get a bucket of dirt and a bucket of
Yeah.
rocks.
Yeah.
It depends, you have to carefully weigh. One thing I think a lot of people don't understand is and Dustin can explain this better than I can, but public agencies have a certain degree of immunity from claims that occur based off of a condition that the public agency was not aware of. So if you have some type of condition and it causes some issue, but you had no way of knowing that that condition even was there, then you can reject the claim and not pay it. So one of the reasons why having some authority at the staff level for the ability to reject claims is because it can kind of turn into a little bit of a political sticky situation when you're having constituents deal directly with the board regarding these small claims.
I don't see the issue. I don't see the issue.
It's-
That's why we have a 5-member board. If one board member is being appealed to, then there's other 4 people going, well, that doesn't make sense. It's not like this is a huge board burden. I mean, we probably see 2 or 3 of these a year, maybe.
Well,
So we're just looking
it's
for
just,
input.
yeah, we're just looking for direction, and it just, in staff's recommendation, this just cleans up, and it speeds up a process that sometimes somebody puts a claim in, and then we don't have to wait, till a board meeting, and it just helps move a process along further. And typically, many of these claims, you're right, they don't come to the board at all, but it's cleaning up a process that in the past, we've had to, even at a very small dollar amount, come to the board and get, put together packets and administrative, review, and sometimes, you know, there's just some files that are set and notes made and decisions are put together, and that's typically enough, right? The administrative burden on some of these can be quite high. But the $10,000 limit was just, is a level to give staff the flexibility to move claims along. We believe it's small enough from a financial burden to the district that if it went to small claims court, it's quite small, and the district typically has a review of our insurance company to look at it as well, and if we ever went to small claims, it's a very small liability.
Well, and the financial implications of the proposed modification are no different than the current policy. All that the revisions that are proposed are doing is equalizing the ability to settle and the ability to reject to be consistent with the same dollar amount at $10,000.
This allows you to do your job.
It just makes it more efficient, it's more consistent. Yeah, it's more consistent with how most public agencies run their claims programs.
But it's one more thing that the board is not aware of. I mean, again, we're getting so far removed from what's going on in the district that it seems like it's important for the board to understand when issues like this happen.
So currently, the board would not even know of a claim that we settled that is under $10,000.
Right.
This just is making the rejection amount consistent.
Right.
Well, given my experience on the board, I mean, I can remember maybe 3 or 4 claims that have come in a year and a half, and every one of those, management presented the issues, and we accepted management's recommendation unanimously, which was to reject the claims, I believe, in those instances, but that would indicate that the remaining claims, so somewhere around 25 to 30 a year, are managed already by the staff independently. So it doesn't seem to be a big change to me. It just kind of streamlines things. And I disagree with the statement that the board is becoming less and less involved, and I do want to go on the record to state that. I think we're becoming more involved in strategic issues that are the core of what our job is, not micromanaging management, and we're trying to free up management to be able to focus and get the job done more expeditiously, but we are still being included where it is critical for the operation of the district and for our board's responsibility.
You all said, Director Hall, and I concur.
Yeah.
So do we have any other input? So I'm hearing general consensus regarding the proposed modification?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
So
And I agree,
modifications
Karen,
needed?
thank you very
Yes.
much.
Okay, then we'll bring this item back at a future board meeting.
Thank you, board.
Okay. Next item, number 6, General Manager's report.
I just have a couple of things to report out on. We weren't gonna do a water supply update. We've been posting them to our website, and we're still doing really well as far as water supply goes. I did wanna give the board just a really brief update, on our FERC relicensing. We have, the work is heated up again, so we have been working, FERC is currently working on their environmental document portion of their process and consultation with the agency. So we've been consulting with some of the resource agencies regarding the FERC relicensing effort, which has required some additional support from HDR or consultant. So just stay tuned. we will be bringing a contract amendment proposal back to the board, probably at the next meeting, Kian. So it's extremely important that that work continue to be completed. This is part of the additional information request, that was issued by FERC probably well over a year ago now. So stay tuned for that item. We are still working with them. And then I know that Greg had an item to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to update you on the in May and June, we were lucky enough to partner with Joint Task Force Rattlesnake, which is a co-joint organization or crew with the California National Guard and crews, as well as CAL FIRE's NEU Crew 23, so the local CAL FIRE organization. They came out and helped us with understory vegetation thinning around Rollins Reservoir, particularly at Greenhorn, Greenhorn Access Road, and then around Scotts Flat and up the Cascade Shores Upper Bench Road near there. And so we had about 2 months worth of free assistance from this Joint Task Force Rattlesnake crew that were just instrumental in coming out, and there was a lot of younger individuals that they are looking to train and really utilize, you know, their chainsaw skills and their felling skills. They came out and coordinated and worked with our team, and our crews were helping them kind of make sure that they're on our property, and cleared some of the road vegetation, so cleared out access, ingress, and egress. That was sort of the focus that they had helped with, and so we're just happy and proud that we were able to work with them, and so I thank them a lot, the California National Guard, and then the CAL FIRE's local NEU Crew 3023, to help us out with that. So I just wanted to update the board that they really helped us in the last couple months.
That's great.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg.
That is all we have.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right.
Yeah,
Board of Directors items.
I'll start.
We'll start, okay.
Yeah, for those of us who got to know and love Mikhail Graham, just want to say rest in peace. He was unique. He was a treasure. And I'd like to give a shout out to Amanda and former director Nick Wilcox, who have been invited, or they have been to the White House this week. Special invitation for work they do. Farm Bureau picnic on Sunday. Ricky, Chris, Jennifer, Trevor. All right, thanks for all coming. It was a great event, Chris.
That's very nice.
Yeah, very nice. And even though it was 100 degrees, it wasn't 100 degrees at your place.
No, it wasn't. Oh, not at my place.
Not at your
Never
place.
is.
It was very
Never is.
pleasant.
Very cool under the trees. Friday, we had a meeting with the Nevada County Fire Safe Council, Greg, Nasha, Chris, and myself. And my gosh, there's how many things? We have six tasks. Yeah, 6 tasks that we can work together on, and all of them, I think, are significant. I actually had maybe 7.
Oh.
And 8 if we can get some of the forestry equipment that they have. You can't believe how great their equipment is. A step up from anything you can buy in California. It is amazing how quality the chainsaws and the weed eaters and everything else is. So Jamie Jones and her crew are really doing a good job. So I look forward to those projects going forward.
Are you done?
Yeah.
I too attended, as Rich alluded to, the Farm Bureau picnic, and it was at Director Beerwagen's farm, ranch, farm. And it was
Only one cow out there.
only one cow. Okay, then it's the farm. And it was just a wonderful event, and I think all of us who were there was attest to that. It was great. Let's see, a couple other things. I continue to be active with the Greenhorn Firewife community and was trained. I am now a licensed, I have an FCC license to use a shortwave radio or ham radio. And the Greenhorn community is doing this really wonderful thing where we're getting out 150 plus radios. And the idea is if there's an evacuation or some sort of calamity and the cell towers go down, which they have done, power goes out, really the only other way to communicate is with these ham radios. So they've set this up, they are amazing, they set up, so our radios connect directly with the repeater up on Banner. We can hear the fire, we can hear the sheriff, and we can talk to each other. So if somebody's evacuating and they've got their trailer and it jackknifes or something, we can go, okay, this is what's happening, and get some help much more quickly than depending on a cell phone when the cell tower's out. So I'm happy to tell you I've been trained and I'm licensed. That was a cool thing. Otherwise, I've been doing a lot of constituent meetings and met with Supervisor Bullock and Hall with regard to, trail and recreation issues around Scotts Flat Lake. And then lastly, I'm working with the Nevada County Association of Realtors. They have a disclosure, they call it the local area disclosure. And it talks about, yes, people can have pigs next to you, and yes, you can have roosters next to you, and, so that people that are new coming to the area have an opportunity to understand the unique aspects of our area. Well, the one thing that was missing is the NID canal.
The trails.
And the quote-unquote trails. And because this is the business I'm in, I see all the time real estate people advertise access to the trails and, you've got this NID trail on your property, and there's not a really great understanding about the access to the easements, that there are easements, they're not private, all of that is very confusing. So I'm working with them, and I'm gonna probably ask Chip when we get a draft document to really be able to put that in writing so that new home buyers in this area who are close to or have canals to their property have a better understanding of what they are. That's been missing in the real estate world. So that's it for me.
Ricky, I really appreciate you taking the initiative to do that.
Oh,
Because
right.
it's, I think I have a constituent who, she wants to block access on
Yes.
the canal, and she's just been called out, it's just nasty.
Yes, me too.
And, it's a real terrible way to become part of our community, is to have this real contentious interaction. And so I appreciate, and it seemed that the realtor was advertising to the property owner, you're gonna have a nice, everybody can walk through, it's like.
I know,
no,
well,
no,
and
not
it's
exactly.
just a lack of education
Yeah.
for the local real estate community. And once they get educated, hopefully, the words will eventually get out.
Yeah.
We've had people say, this person cut a tree down on my property. Well, yes, that's correct. We have a right to cut trees down in our easements,
Right.
and to protect them, and, the whole gamut, you all know. So, anyway, I'm working with them to try to get this straight. Yeah.
And another issue is that I've run into many times is that when someone buys a property, they don't tell them that other people have pipelines that, across their property. Or that you,
Right.
you have a property, but there's a ditch 3 properties over, and sure, you could get water, but only if these other 2 people agree to it, or,
Mhm.
that's one of the stickiest constituent
It is,
issues
it's
I've
true.
always gone to. And I think that, and that goes to the land use, water supply disconnect, because when the ditches were done, and when my community was made, it was made so every parcel could have water. But now the parcels have been subdivided, and so now there's these landlocked parcels that can't get to the ditch, and then new people come and say, no way are you gonna put a pipeline on my property. And so this is the realtor should disclose that, and let people know.
Yeah, and most of them just really don't know,
Understand, yeah.
So that's really excellent what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Heck. Director Hall?
So I participated in the Delta Counties Water Summit, which was about the Delta Pipeline. And I participated because I wanted to better understand kind of this major project in the state. And it was interesting in many ways, but one of the things that I took away was the fact that the state is moving forward with that project, or so it would seem, at a huge cost. $20 billion is the estimate right now. And it has a huge impact to the 5 counties that are, border the area of the pipeline. And it just, you know, kind of, the state's gonna do what the state's gonna do relative to water. And, so anyway, it was a very interesting, webinar. And the other, webinar I did was with Joaquin Escobar, Chair of the State Water, Board. And that was interesting in many ways. One of the things that he emphasized was that urban conservation can do the maximum amount of conservation, but that's not where our water issues in California are gonna be corrected. And so that was his main takeaway message. I also had lunch with Supervisor Ed Schofield, and I wanted to give a shout out to Andy Fecco, who was just named to serve on the newly established Wildland Fire Mitigation and Management Commission. So that he was appointed at the federal level to serve along with 8 other California leaders, as well as other western states. He was one of 500 applicants for the position, and so he's going to play a key role in recommending ways that the federal agencies can better prevent, mitigate, suppress, and manage wildland fires. So it's super exciting that we have a local representative on that commission, bringing forth our regional issues. Anyway, just wanted to do a shout out to Andy.
Yes.
Director Hall, Director Peters?
Sure, it's been pretty quiet. I've been working on with some constituents, and I'm glad one of my constituents contacted Director Heck because I didn't get anywhere with them, so thank you for resolving the problem for me.
She's the go-to. For constituents.
Ricky has a hotline.
Well, I was just happy that it got resolved.
And thank you to staff, to Steve Prosser.
Yeah, one of the challenges is Ricky provided some really good pictures, so
Yeah.
you actually understand the location.
Yeah,
No, I had
the canal, the top, at the 2 locations. I provided the facility location.
Anyway,
I
it's
provided
good,
facility
we double
location.
teamed and we got it done.
This canal from this point to that point,
Nice job.
seems like that should be enough.
So I'm gonna call you
The dead
next
trees,
time
No, do not call me.
I usually.
I'll refer them, I'm gonna refer, my time left, I'm gonna refer all my calls to you here. Okay, that's all for now.
Okay, thank you, Director Peters. So I just want to echo what, Rich said about the meeting with fire safe, I want to call them fire wise, right? Just fire safe, is that correct? The opportunity to, partner with them. We'll be moving that idea forward, just the things where the areas that we overlap and are doing the same thing. It just seems like a really great partnership and really exciting idea there. Plus, we have, been ramping up in our county, with the fires that have been happening, so it's a good thing, so. And that's all I have. At this time, we'll take public comment for items to be considered in closed session. If you'd like to comment on any item we've got to consider, start on your phone or come to the podium.
Mr. Chair, I do not anticipate any reportable action from
No
the closed
reportable
session. And also, just for the record, I wanted to say that we had a typo in item 8 that shouldn't be there. So the only 2 session items are 9A and 9B.
9A and 9B, okay. Thank you for that, Justin. All right. If there's no public comment, then we will close the open session, open the closed session.